Welcome to the Didi and Lital show. Advice, thoughts, and stories from a married couple on cybersecurity, technology, and life in general. Now here are your hosts, Didi and Lital.
Hello, and welcome to the Didi and Lital show. I'm Lital. Hi, Didi.
Hi, Lital.
What's new?
I am stressed.
Stressed?
Yes.
If
you'll stick a lump of coal up my butt,
Is it because we're
moving?
Your favorite thing?
Change.
Change.
Exactly. I hate change. There's like this thing.
I love moving.
I know. Part of the stuff. Part of the reason that you
I love to create some chaos in life. Like
exactly.
Not be
I call you chaos monkey.
Too boring.
Yes.
Yeah, you need to.
Yes.
Like life should be
chaos.
Something that moves. And I mean, I do like routine. I hate when my routine changes, but other than the routine, as long as the routine is kept, everything else can move around.
Yes. So I think the
You're
real
in hysteria mode.
Yes.
Right now.
I am in hysteria mode. I am panicking beyond belief. And yes, you know what the upside is?
You know what the only thing that like you cared about in the whole home thingy? That was funny. All you cared about was the recessed outlets inside and outside the cabinets.
Yes.
That was like your dream.
No, it's not my dream. It's the thing that pisses me off the most in our current house is that every place you touch is a snake pit. Like every place, the TV, snake pit. The under the cabinets, a snake pit. Omri's room is basically a fire trap. There's like 15 cables going in various directions because he's an idiot and he doesn't listen.
Leah's room is...
Leah's room. I don't even want to step into that room.
Yeah, okay. I agree.
So
it was just funny how this week you got to kind of like realize we're about to finish this project, and we'll talk about this project being agile versus like some of the waterfall in it. We have some good insight, and there will be a topic.
We can talk about that now.
We'll have a topic on its own because we have already the topic for this episode. But it was funny how you were like, what about all those recessed outlets that we talked about? And I told you that's the last thing that they're putting this week. Once the cabinet are completely screwed in, installed, everything is ready, and you kind of completely blew up. You didn't think about it. It's the most important thing, blah, blah, blah. And I was like,
didn't think about it.
He is in a crazy person mode.
I am.
And I talked with the designer, and I was like, listen, we need to get those the outlets in because Didi is kind of falling apart. You didn't even care about the bookshelves in your room, which I thought would be...
No.
We installed it yesterday. It looks so good.
It looks so good. It's not done. Is it done yet?
It's done. It's done. You need to come see.
I saw it.
It's drying now.
So one thing...
They need another coat of...
and they need to drill so the cables can go closer to the TV. See?
Yeah.
The snake bit. So
he has an obsession.
Yes.
Well, but that actually goes into the topic of today, which is unified management system. So it's like to prevent this
chaos
clogging
and disaster. So here's an interesting thing about unified management, and
let's start. Let's not dive into that.
Let's dive into how the chaos of our house is related to unified management.
And then we define what it is so people will understand what we're talking about today.
Yes. So the more fights about the building the house.
Oh, fights is our life.
Yeah, exactly. We'd love to argue. If you haven't picked it up by episode, 300 and something, that we love to argue.
I wish we had already 300 something episodes.
I think we're close to 100. I think we're close to 100.
But you said 300. Do you think it's a daily?
Who cares? Accuracy. You keep talking about this accuracy thing. So this morning, as I'm talking to my buddy Sean, He says, "Don't you have like 600 IoT devices in the house?" I said, "Don't. Let's not talk about it."
It's funny. Yesterday, somebody told me, "So you have 200 devices?" And I was like, "No, I think we have like maybe 40, 50." And now it's like your friend is telling you 600. Next thing we say we have 15,000.
Yes.
I don't know. We'll make it
by the way,
into something
I
ridiculous.
had a very, very strong nerd moment that I was very happy. I was thinking of calling Matt, and then I saw the time. I said, "Oh, fuck, I can't call Matt now." That I noticed that some of the Google devices, because there's a Google router, they talk to each other over IPv6. I said, "This is awesome. Somebody's using IPv6." Yeah, exactly. That face. Matt will be very happy. Hopefully, yes, there's IPv4, IPv6, and that goes back to my unified management thing. Right now, my key problem in the house is that the door is used by one app, and it doesn't talk to the Google Home, and it doesn't talk to the Brilliant. I tried.
It actually was bought in the Google. It's a Google operated. The yellow one or the garage door?
The garage door.
Garage door is Alexa. That's a huge problem. We need to replace it.
No, it's
That was by the builder. Yes, because we don't want Alexa. Everything is already Google.
See, now you're understanding my unified management problem.
Yeah,
I would like to have, and by the way, the lights you bought also don't work with Google.
they do.
Well,
I have them on my Google,
but they're not on mine.
That's because you didn't install. We go today and we fix it.
We need to fix it. You see, this is my unified management problem. I would like, from my perspective, to perform my home tasks with one account, that's preferably a Google account, and control everything. One account, one sign-on, one tenant to own them all. But, and here's the big but, and this is where when we go now into business land, not into...
Because we're not going to talk again about
IoT in our home. But this made me think about unified management. Why did it make me think of unified management? So, a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, there was this guy called Sean, and he decided to call me and Dennis and said, "Hey, Cisco has this problem. They have all these acquisitions of all these security companies, and each one has their own console and their own thing, and it's a disaster. And you can't manage everything from one place. And customers are complaining that they didn't buy stuff from a holding company. They bought something from a single company, and they want one
unified experience.
One unified experience.
They actually want the benefit of these tools talking to each other.
Yes.
And reaching each other with data.
Yeah, exactly. But also they want to be able to perform that when one persona, that the person that owns the network, he's able to go to one console and configure the firewall, the networking gear, and all the stuff that relates to network from, this is one guy, or one gal, or one they. They can control everything from this one place to control everything.
They don't want to do Control-Alt and go between
and go between
tabs.
15 pages.
Yes.
and cut and paste between things and do all of these things.
Yeah.
But, because they want to complete their task from one place. And this is where Sean said something very smart, and nobody has listened to him. This was 2014, and nobody listened to him ever since, because everybody's doing their own thing rather than doing so. Sean came to us and said, "Listen, I was in the Wright Museum for the Wright brothers about flight,
yeah,
and
planes."
And he said every place there were pictures of birds. So he asked, why is it there? And they said that in the book, Orville Wright said, if you want to learn how to fly, you have to watch the birds. And he said, this is where we're doing product management wrong. We're talking to the birds. The birds can't tell you why they fly. They don't know shit. They know how to shit, eat, poop on our cars.
And
fly. But they don't know why they're flying. They just do. And if you want to learn what customers do, you need to watch them, not listen to them. And this was a very interesting insight. And we fail to do this miserably all the time until I think Design Insights, Device Insights, and ORT were the first time that I actually did that. and I think this is why those were successful, because it required a couple of things that whenever companies go into unified management, they fuck up royally. What they do is they listen to the customers, and this is where insanity kind of rules. Because in product management land, somebody decided that Henry Ford is the person to listen to. He says, the customers will always tell you that they want a faster horse, and you need to give them a car. In reality, most of the time, they just need a faster horse. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes they actually are right about, but we need to look at what they're doing, because is what they're doing a faster horse or a car? Understand the problem, not what they do, but what the problem is that they're needing to deal with, and then understand if they need the faster horse or the car, or maybe they need Scotty and the teleporter, and not any of these things. And I'll give you a couple of examples of how this has failed miserably by the bigger companies. So Palo decided to say, no, unified platform means this massive platform, and stick everything into the platform and erase the delineation of the products, and everything is a platform. And while I know that there's a whole bunch of Palo Alto fanboys out there, including in our own company, but the fact is that the market has decided that that the platform play is a piece of BS and shorted them. So they lost about a third of their stock value with that platform play.
I think it's because they were talking about cutting cost,
it doesn't matter,
cutting prices, and giving some of the platform for free. So that was,
which goes back to our friend Daniel Kahneman, and free is bad.
Yeah,
I think the main thing is that they're not listening to the customer, and what they're trying to do is follow Microsoft. What Microsoft did, and Microsoft can afford themselves to do this because.
Well, we talked about Microsoft Suites and
yes,
ELAs.
because people buy Microsoft for Office. They have to buy Office. They need to write documents on something. The rest of the stuff is the rest of the stuff, so they don't really care. So Microsoft decided that from their experience of the unified management, it's not unified. They launched ITDR, which is basically an amalgam of 5 different products duct taped together with duct tape and baling wire. It even looks like 5 different products. But what they've decided is we start with single sign-on. That there's going to be one user, the Microsoft user. You log into that single user for everything. And then from that, you have a launchpad and you go to the different consoles, and that's unified for them and good enough.
Yeah, that is the thing. Most corporates, all they want is a single sign-on, and that's it, as unified.
Yes.
It's like good enough. I have all this acquisition as long as they sit under one unified sign-on. You sign in once. You can kind of pivot between the different solutions.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why it's enough for a lot of them. This is a very.
Why is it enough, and is it enough for the customer?
So here's the thing that most people don't understand. There's something in the customer buying journey that people don't follow. Who's the decider that shells out money?
Not the one using the platform.
System, the platform.
For sure.
And this is the thing that you need to think of. Who do you cater first? And a lot of times people don't think of the buyer as the critical person. Sometimes when customers want unified, they want unified for unified billing.
Correct.
And for that, you need to make sure that the buyer can single sign on into all these systems and get a nice report. And this is something that this is actually the first step. When you want to unify, understand who are you unifying for. Because if you don't track who you're unifying...
So you're saying in many cases, maybe unifying is good enough if you just unify billing.
You need to understand who you're unifying for. Understand the personas. Map out the personas. Remember the Sean Henry statement of watch the birds? Watch the birds. What is the problem? What is the challenge that they're saying? Because is it buying their problem? Is pricing their problem? Is pricing predictability their problem that they're talking about? Is basically the networking guy trying to go into 15 different consoles is their problem? And after you understand exactly their problem, like understanding how much I love moving and my need for my sockets, it's to understand how you address the problem. because it could be that if all you need is to make things more consistent. For example, use the same terminology. So I remember specifically when we were unifying a few things. One of the things that we said is, you know what? The thing to actually unify is the nomenclature. Because
like the way you call an incident on your endpoint tool should be kind of similar to how you would call an incident
on your NDR tool.
Exactly.
And sometimes...
So that just people that are in the space understand and don't overthink it.
Yes. Or Microsoft's, when everybody talks about the Microsoft suites, if you remember when Office came out, you had that stupid file bar at the top, and you knew that there's file they're still consistent in that top bar.
Navigation bar.
Exactly. And then the ribbon came out, and the ribbon was very consistent.
That's a very when I'm thinking about what helps users is a UI UX that is consistent. I think terminology, nomenclature, those kind of things are part of your user experience. Having some sort of experience of, knowing when you're going to the top left, you're going to get something. Once you open the drill down, it's going to be the same. I think this is going back to our Daniel Kahneman episode about thinking fast, slow. And when you are operating a tool, you want to minimize the operation of the tool cost. And part of that, of like, if it's a tool for a SOC, you want the whole process to be streamlined. You don't want to waste time on actual tool management. You want to put time into actual, securing, investigating incidents. So a well-unified platform will be one that there is a cohesive user experience that once a person get acquainted with the platform, they're going to be easy to operate, not, let's open a manual, let's go into FAQs, let's like YouTube how-tos, because it's self-explanatory. And I think that's a lot of the problem with things that are being kind of consolidated together, sticking together. Each one still have its own way of operating the tool. You need to know multiple, query languages or like syntax or whatever, one tool or the other. So there is this training, time to make the tool work for you bar that is painful. You want somebody that knows how to work with this console to be up and running and effective. And I think that is a thing. The effectiveness, just doing SSO into, single sign-oning into that's the lowest bar. You don't want it, but you know what? It's something you do once a day or two. So that's actually, it's kind of like table stakes. It's actually stupid. It's not the big deal. The really important thing is the effectiveness of people using the tool and how much you need them to become expert on tool usage, which is an issue.
Well, sign-on, I think, I'm biased because...
there are other reasons for sign-on, but what I'm saying, when you only decide that you're going to stick sign-on on all your kind of parts of the console, and that would be it, you're not doing the job of consolidating the
I think this is
the whole.
I think this goes to what I call the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy rule. So, in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy,
bring a towel? What?
Exactly. Why do you need to bring a towel?
Why?
Producer Dave, do you remember why you need to bring a towel?
Why do you need to bring a towel?
I missed the Hitchhiker's Guide train, so you'll have to fill me in. Sorry.
So the reason that you need to bring a towel is because if you have a towel, it means that you're a responsible adult and you probably have a million other things. And if you have all those things and you might have forgotten them, somebody's will be willing to lend you because you're a responsible adult and you clearly carry a towel. So if you don't do single sign-on, it's like you're not carrying the towel. It means that you're not doing the bare minimum of being a responsible adult. It means that if the single sign-on doesn't work and the tenancy doesn't work,
Phil,
I assume that the rest of the system, that nothing else is there, and the rest of you are stupid. So this is why
it's the basic duct tape to put things together. Phil,
and the other thing that, and I think this is where what happens a lot of times when people talk about unifying things. And I'll give you an example from our personal experience. They go into the minutia versus doing the basics. So, for example, we were dealing with a very complicated query called impossible travel. Impossible travel is something that everybody wants. It never works. It's a marketing tool. If you're listening to my podcast, don't listen to me. But impossible travel is
basically Didi sitting here
and suddenly logging in from someplace else.
Yeah,
it's something that you need to do, but it's noisy and it's not very well thought of. So, for example, there's like a million complications that need to happen in this. And
because you might be VPNing and
you
your
might be
IP now
VPNing
move to appear as if you're in San Fran.
And there could be a service account doing something in OIDC, calling from backend to backend on your behalf. There's a million reasons why it won't work. Having said that, you need to build it. And we were comparing our implementation to somebody else's implementation to somebody else's implementations because there's like 15 different implementations. And somebody said, yeah, we need to have consistent language in this and consistent language in that. And I said, we don't have a clear representation of an IP address. Should we start with that before we fix impossible travel? Because if I can't communicate an IP address in a Cisco tool that deals with IPs, then how will I be able to communicate effectively impossible travel? So this is where people miss doing the obvious versus doing a lot. So people try to get to 100% versus trying to get to an easy 50. Because if I do 50% of my task without thinking about it, then I'm good. Sometimes people spend hours on thinking of the initial bootstrap experience and not thinking of the day-to-day. Because somebody in some management book said that the bootstrap experience is the first experience that you have, blah, 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 and it's really important. But people forget the bootstrap experience. They do this once and forget about it until it breaks. And then they come back to it. But it's always a think slow process. It's never a think fast process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you need to think about how you create processes that are think fast.
Exactly.
If you can.
You need to think of the day-to-day. So if you use, I'll give the bad examples from Microsoft because it's so much fun because they so suck at this. If I want to be able to, and if Anne listens to this, I apologize. If I want to deal with risky users, in risky users, I see that I'm accessing from an unmanaged and unregistered device. They're not using the same nomenclature of the device name as iTunes, as Intune uses. That's their MDM tool. So Intune and their threat detection tool look like they came from 3 different vendors.
They
did. And because even MCAS is an amalgam of Adhalom and another tool. So you can see a lot of these things that come in from an alert that alerts you about a problem. And when you go to the tool to investigate the problem, the fact that you need to go to another tool to investigate the problem is a problem on its own. But you go to the tool to investigate the problem and it tells you something different. And you say, oh, this means that. That is a problem.
Yeah, you don't need to guess. The tool should tell you already, point to
that's
the problem, and that's how you solve it.
So first in unification, if I can choose when I do one task, not everything under the sun, one task, if I can do it in one tool, this is awesome. Not go to 3 different tools. Sometimes it's impossible, sometimes it's easy, but make sure that performing the same task you do in one tool. That's number 1. Then if I need to go to another tool, or I need to talk to somebody. Sometimes in an investigation, the SOC analyst needs to go to the identity person. That they can take a look at 2 tools, because sometimes the identity person has a million other tasks to do. And you can't unify everything to one experience that the SOC analyst and the identity person and the networking person will have one console to solve them all. So these different people have different consoles. But if they come from a suite, they should represent IP address the same way. They should represent device the same way. They can have added things, but at least at the top, they should speak the same kind of language. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I want to make sure we touch on a point because a lot of our listeners are not in corporate, they are in startups, and they're building tools that are planned to be best of breed. You know, you point solutions, things that you do use different tools for specific problems. Maybe they will be acquired by the Microsoft, the Palos, or Cisco's, and then their tool will be aggregated. But their whole thing is we're innovative. There is one point problem that is currently not being solved, and we are going to solve it. How can they think about unified management, unified experience? Because I think part of the problem of startups today is that people want as little point solutions as possible.
Yes.
They do understand that the big platforms don't necessarily solve all the areas that are, and that innovation emerges from startups. So if you're a startup and you acknowledge it, what can you do to make your product better, more feel like cohesive with whatever person has in the environment currently? And I think I usually talk with startups and they're saying, oh, we want to drive in-console usage. We want people to come to our console. And I was like, you're a tiny startup and you're not going to be, and they're like, we're going to be the pane of glass. You're not the single pane of glass.
You're not going to be single pane of glass.
So how should they think about it? Is it APIs? Is it like integrations with, what is it that you are in a startup thinking about the bigger your place in the ecosystem, and how to make it less about you and more about the actual user, that if they buy you, they have you together with 10 other point solutions?
So first, you need to think of the persona.
Mm-hmm.
And why am I saying think of the persona is because, and this is going back to our conversation about mid-market, not mid-market. Remember that conversation about the mid-market, not mid-market?
Mid-market versus
enterprise.
Selling to the enterprise.
So this is where you need to think of who your persona is and understand where do they spend their time. So
if you're selling to the enterprise, what does it mean?
So even before selling to the enterprise or not. So we discovered that our users are...
When you were at Ort,
pre-Cisco. So we discovered that our persona was an uncatered to persona, because this persona just didn't exist pre-COVID. In pre-COVID, the security organizations didn't deal with identity as much as they're dealing with it now. So this...
Because you didn't have all those kind of person calling IT to reset the Okta, which is actually a hacker trying to get in.
So the help desk teams and the identity teams did not have a target on their back as big as they have now, and we were very fortunate to find basically a blue ocean of a new persona that nobody catered to. So this was really lucky, and that doesn't exist a lot. But we wanted to fork off to other groups.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why our number 1 and 2 integrations we're sending to Splunk and Sentinel, because when we wanted to work with security teams,
you have to go to the SIM.
They work in the SIM. So some people will tell you that they have this Uber console that unifies. No, in reality, most security teams, the first place they check is Splunk. This is like number 1. 80% of the organizations, that's the first place they take a look at. Second place they take a look at, would you care to guess?
CrowdStrike console?
ServiceNow.
Oh, okay.
ServiceNow. So if you're going to enterprise, the first place they will look at is ServiceNow.
To see if there are tickets?
Exactly.
Somebody issued a ticket?
Because somebody will... everybody wants automated remediation. Nobody automatically remediates shit. What they do is open a ticket and be very careful when they try to remediate. And because of that, the two places that we really needed to integrate with was ServiceNow and Jira. ServiceNow for the people that like pain. Jira for the people that are smaller, younger, and like to pay a lot of money for a company that likes to squeeze you really hard, because that's Atlassian. So they're the new CA of squeezing money out of people.
Mm-hmm.
Third place, Slack. Most startup and innovative teams will use Slack. And we've spent a lot of time for our help desk teams to work over Slack, because they didn't want to work in any console. They wanted to be able to say, tell me all you know about Didi, and get this nice report. They wanted to see all the alerts that Didi might have in Slack. They wanted to be able to contact over Slack with the people that own the space, and say, hey, person from organization A or organization B, is this person really where they are? And this is the person that will actually log into our console. So being able to communicate over trouble ticketing tools, IAM tools, and unified existing platforms is key. But understand, what is that unified platform? Is there a unified platform? And you want to go with a unified platform that has already APIs, has already controls. And sometimes it's easier to do that this way than to try to build your own. Another thing is, are you building for something that is already a defined field? So for example, one of the things that we built at RSA a million years ago was a risk engine to basically collect all the information about a user trying to log in from all the different places. And right now, Okta has an API for risk engines. They actually invite people to build something towards their API and give you a lot more data. There's unified threats. Sticks and other standards exist for you to share unified threats. So all the unified threat companies kind of exist. Another possible platform is to join the data platform. Snowflake is really good at aggregating things around it. Yeah. If you can do something like IP info to basically share this information at the query level, now you're almost impossible to yank out. But you also immediately limit your space into that controlling body. And by the way, for the longest time, companies did this with RSA. So almost all companies worked with RSA for the token, because all the VPN companies had to have RSA tokens to log in.
Mm-hmm.
So RSA, you didn't need their UI because you had everybody else's UI, but you had a very clear API and delineation. So look for a standard. If there's a standard, embrace the standard.
Yeah, I think that is key. I mean, startups, if you are in product management, in engineering, you probably think about how to create your own innovation you need to add the time and energy to think about the user journey in terms of fitting into their own ecosystem, and to choose what path you're going to go with, because those are the path of least resistance to buying you, to using you. You're always going to be a best of breed as long as you're a startup. If you're not kind of like a bigger motion with the big portfolio companies. So with that, you need to make your bets. You need to select what to work with, and definitely think about those places that are kind of key. The SSO, how you get in, the data platforms, how you kind of like share data, ticketing, and then what else? What's adjacent? That's where you want to think about.
Tenancy and org management. Be open to, if you think of tenancy and org management from day one, you can support MSPs and MSSPs. If you're
That's by itself.
That by itself, the fact that you are able to service that immediately makes your selling motion a lot simpler, a lot smoother. And this is really important for all the AI companies out there, because this is because all the MSSPs and MSPs want to have shared insights across their tenants to be able to ask questions as me as an MSSP across my tenants, but also allow my users to ask about their tenant.
Yep. So remember, you're not alone.
You're not alone.
You're not alone.
And you need to be a platform player. You need to be successful.
You have to.
But going back, always think of your user, because what you don't want to do is to try to make the network guy and the SOC guy speak the same language. They hate each other's guts. They won't talk each other's language even when they speak English.
That's ridiculous.
Yes. But that's reality. Don't unify for something that goes across these personas. If you try to do this, you're going into an impossible task for no good reason. You're going to spend billions and you'll ship nothing. Because you can't unify in software for something that is not unified in life.
Mm-hmm.
You need to unify for things that are unified in life.
Yeah.
And not for things that are not unified in life.
Cool.
I think with that,
we helped anyone that is developing
unified platforms.
Yes.
Excellent.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us.
The Didi and Lital Show is a weekly podcast. If you like us, please rate and review us wherever you get your podcast and share it with your friends. If you want to be on the show, reach out to Didi or myself on LinkedIn. And until next week, goodbye. Bye, Didi.
Bye, Lital.
See you.